How's it going, YouTube? Gearing here, bringing you guys the first episode of the Virtual Drift Report. Now, before we get things started here, I'd like to thank Spitsy for giving me the content and rights to use the stuff from his video from this past weekend and everything. So, be sure to check out his channel. YouTube link will be in the video right now as I'm talking. So, be sure to check his channel out, and he has great content. This past weekend we did cover, or I'm covering this past weekend, Spitsy's mini drift comp. Track was on Silverstone International, pretty much a simple, basic course that mostly everybody knows. So let's get right into things. Starting with the top 3 qualifiers, breaking their runs down. First, qualifying at number 3, we have Relapse, or people know him as SCS Noxide. His run came in as a 86. Run was pretty smooth and fluent. Angle was pretty much average to, I guess, a little bit average. But run was fluent and managed to get through the run. Number 2, we got SO Mystified coming in with a score of an 87. His run was a lot better than Noxide's, had much more angle. The line was a little bit much better. So, like I said, the line was just much more fluid and everything. Finishes out the run strong. So, yeah. Coming in at number 1, we have JSI Austin coming in with a score of an 88. Now, the reason why his score was pretty much 1 point higher was just because his angle was a little bit tad better than Mystified's, but the line and everything was pretty much the same, but he just had a little bit much more angle. That's why we scored him in as the number 1. These are the rest of the qualifying results that got into the top 16. Moving on next to the bracket, you pretty much see the top 16 bracket. We're gonna move on straight to the top 8. And as you see, for the top 8, you have your brackets laid out. So we're going to start off with JSI Austin and Gain Speed, kicking it off here into the top 8. Let's get right into the battle. Starting off with the roll. Entry was really good for both drifters. It's just that Austin in the Buick was a little bit more smoother, and the lead run is looking a little bit much better than Gain Speed's follow run. But there was a bit of proximity on the first run and pretty much gave him the advantage. Going into the next run, Austin would follow. Entry was good for both drifters. Transition was really good for Austin, tucked in next to his door. Coming around the last turn, tighten it right back up, and judges gave him the win. He moves on to the top 8. Next battle, we had Select Veeps in the Z28 and Akihiro in the S13. Following would be Akihiro. Entry was really good for both drivers. The transition was really good as well. A little bit of a stumble for Akihiro, but brings it back in. Managed to bring the proximity just a tad bit and gave it a slight advantage to Veeps. Veeps would follow following run. Really good entry for both drivers. Again, transition looked really good right there. Really smooth for Veeps. Gives him a little room, tightens it back up, and we end up giving Veeps the win. Now, there was a bit of controversy, as you see here, as Akihiro did have a little bit of stumble on his transition compared to Veeps, making it much smoother. Next battle was SO Mystified versus Extreme 64. Following would be Extreme. He gave a little bit of proximity. His entry was a little bit shadow on angle. Came off of that not good as Mystified. And pretty much Mystified pretty much brung it home and gave him a big advantage going into the follow run. Following, Mystified comes in, gives him a little bit of room. Entry was a little bit, I guess, weak, but brings it back in, tightens it back up, closes the proximity, and the judges decided to give him the win based on both run results. Moving on to the next battle, we had Relapse versus Gingerbread Hose. Getting right into it, Gingerbread gave a big gap. Now we decided that was it an inactive chase or if Relapse did 50 roll, but we did get confirmation during that battle that Relapse did 50 roll, so we counted it against the follow draw for inactive chase, so that would be a really big advantage going towards the lead car, which is Relapse. Next run on entry, Gingerbread did have a really big stumble, did not miss, but failed to miss the first clipping point, which caused contact. The judges pretty much gave fault to the lead car because, like I said, he was pretty much off the first clipping point and the follow did not see where he was at, so the win would go to Relapse. As you see here, the bracket has went further. Austin will be going against Veeps and Mystify will be going against Relapse. Kicking it off things for the top 4, we have Austin versus Veeps. Veeps will be following. Entry was a little bit of a proximity. Veeps tried to pretty much shallow it up and missed that clipping point to bring back the proximity, but he went in a little too hard and had a big correction and almost spun and pretty much gave that first run to Austin. Austin's follow run, really good entry, pretty much on his door, on the transition, just all over Veep's door. Judges decided to give it a win to Austin. It was just a pretty much good run for Austin. Moving on to our next battle, we have Relapse versus Mystified. Kicking it off here, Relapse will be following. Relapse did give a little bit of a proximity and he also dropped a tire on the first turn. And pretty much from there it was pretty much done, all good and gravy. Mystified was just bringing it home with a big proximity and gave him the advantage. Following run, Mystified, good entry. Relapse pretty much threw it in too hard, dropped the tire. It kind of messed up Mystified in the process. Transition was really good for Mystified. Closes the gap and will give him the win. So looking back at our bracket here, we have Austin and Mystified in the grand finals, and we'll be getting into Relapse and Veeps for the third place battle. So let's get right into things. Veeps will be following, coming into the entry. Entry was good for both drivers. The transition was looking good until there was a really bit of a mishap on coming into the turn, and judges did discuss on how that to be handled, and they gave fault to select Veeps because it was kind of his fault for coming a little too fast, so there was a slight advantage to Relapse. On the entry for following run, Relapse came in with great angle on the entry, makes up the proximity a little bit while sacrificing the clipping point on transition, shallows a little bit, and from there Veeps did pull proximity with a flawless, really good run and scored it as an OMT run. Veeps will be following for the OMT run. One entry Veeps gave a little bit of a gap. He makes it up, really good clipping points for both drivers there. Veeps makes up the proximity really well and pretty much stays on his door for the rest of the run. So advantage would have been going to Veeps for that round. Next run, Relapse came in with another run with a good entry on his follow. Sacrificed that clipping point to make up proximity, but still could not make it up as good. Veeps pulled on to get the victory, and he would win third place. Moving on to our grand finals, guys. Now this was a really good battle. So Mystified will be following first run. Entry was really good for both drivers. Transition was also well. Everything this run, pretty much this battle was pretty much the battle of the whole weekend. Mystified stays up on his door and finishes out the run, so that'd be a slight advantage to Mystified. Following run, Austin matches that as well. Mystified did drop a tire and everything. Austin pretty much didn't sweat it, gave him room on the transition, comes right back on his door, but played it safe and it scored as a OMT. OMT number 1, run 1. Mystified followed. Entry was really good. Transition was well as well. And yeah, this run was pretty much kind of speechless, man. Like, this is how you supposed to dress Silverstone or Tandem it. So Yeah. Next following run, Austin enters. Mr. Fight went a little bit wide again, drops a tire. Austin gives him room yet again, tucks it back into the inside, makes up a little proximity, which will be giving it another OMT. Then following that run, Mr. Fight will be following, again. Entry was good. Transition was also pretty good, but slacks off a quite bit, and which will be leaving that an advantage to Austin. Next run, Austin comes in, really good entry for both drivers. Mr. Fight did drop a little bit right there, didn't really phase Austin. As at the end of the day, comes right back in on his door, and pretty much first place will be given to JSI Austin. Okay, the official results coming in first will be JSI Austin, second place with the Mystify, and third place went to Select Veeps. And as for right now, the next upcoming will be the Starlux Virtual Drift Challenge, which is a French-based tournament. It's coming this weekend. Sign up information will be in the description, so guys, be sure to check out the live stream, and if you're down to compete, hit up the sign up thread and there hopefully get you through. So thank you guys for watching this first episode of this report. Leave a comment, leave a rate, leave a subscribe, and any tips for the next video will be helpful, guys. So thank you guys for watching, and take care.